Joint practice with the Carolina Panthers in the books. All the biggest takeaways coming your way. Presented by my friends at The Perfect Jean. They're the best jeans I've ever worn. Check them out in the link in the description down below to get 15% off and free shipping. So the Panthers in town, the preseason game Saturday, but joint practice is done. It's in the books, and I thought the Texans came out on top on this one. Their offense did enough. Their defense stopped the Panthers enough that I feel like the Texans could decidedly say they were victorious in the joint practice. And I know that's not exactly how you score a joint practice, and it's about the work and the situations. And yeah. Life's about winners and losers, and the Texans were better than the Carolina Panthers overall. Now, they didn't dominate them. Okay, this wasn't some sort of just Texans steamrolling them from the beginning, though I thought with the early start that was going to be the case. So let's start there with the early start to things for the offense and the defense. The Texans offense got going pretty quickly on their first team reps against the first team defense of the Carolina Panthers, and were able to move down the field pretty well throughout the course of those reps. And CJ Stroud with a couple of completions, or I think 3 completions on that initial drive, finishing it up with a touchdown pass to Nico Collins, had Xavier Hutchinson also on that drive. Hutchinson's had a really nice camp, and he's probably better than all of us gave him credit for heading into the season. He's going to be on the team, and he's probably going to have a bigger role than most of us expected him to have in 2025. And with that solid start for the offense was good protection. Though the rushing attack was hard to come by for the Texans over the course of the day. Not many things to talk about there for the rushing attack, though. I did see Jawar Jordan at one point kind of cut loose and get out there to the left side for a nice big gain of nearly 10 yards at one point. But the rushing attack, there's something left to be desired about that. And we'll talk more intimately about the offensive line a little bit later on. But overall on defense, hey, the Texans defense had a pretty darn good start, and they were making things tough on Bryce Young. And it really felt like the Panthers early on only got things going on draws, misdirections, screens. Now, ultimately, they did find a touchdown on that opening drive because Bryce Young tossed it up to Xavier Legette. He was able to kind of moss Jalen Smith, the rookie cornerback for the Texans. But it was a pretty good start for both sides for the Texans, and they finished pretty well on both sides, I would say. So ultimately, we'll go Texans victory on this one. And that's kind of the big overarching first one is good work. D'Amico Ryan seemed pretty happy with it. CJ Stroud seemed pretty happy with it. Will Anderson actually wasn't pleased with the defense, but I felt like the defense had a pretty darn good day. It wasn't dominant on either side. Okay, and there were things to pick and choose that you don't like from both of them, but pretty solid day for the Texans overall. And that would be my biggest takeaway is, hey, they took care of their business and they got what they needed to get out of this joint practice. Let's talk about the coverage from the Houston Texans. This could be one of the better secondaries in all of football. We know they have the best cornerback duo in all of football. Let's talk specifically about Derek Stingley and Kamari Lassiter. Let's start with All-Pro Sting. Derek Stingley, he got challenged early in this one by Bryce Young when Tetaroa McMillan was the intended receiver. And you know what happened? Derek Stingley caught that ball, and Derek Stingley probably would have taken that thing back to the house for a pick six. You don't try Derek Stingley when he's close to those receivers because it's typically going to go Derek Stingley's way. But Bryce Young tried him again, and Tetaroa McMillan was the intended receiver again, and the rookie did a great job of getting separation off the line. He put a good move on Stingley. Stingley was playing catch-up, and Bryce Young hit him for about a 30 yards in the air throw, and McMillan caught it and did the rest. It would have been a touchdown. That was probably one of the only flaws I saw out of Derek Stingley all day long, and he didn't really get challenged that much, but hey, an interception for a touchdown, give up a touchdown, shortly after that, you could probably live with that in a joint practice as you're getting your first opportunity against a rookie that you haven't seen a lot, and you're playing a little bit of off coverage there. So I'm not going to be too critical of Stingley in that moment. Thought Kamari Lassiter had some nice moments. He was real tight on Tetero McMillan on a throw late in practice from Bryce Young, and McMillan was able to kind of get loose, but by the time he got loose and threw his hands out there, they bounced right off his mitts, and Lassiter was able to be in on that and force the incomplete. He came up for an incredible stuff on a run play. Bryce Young swung the ball sideways, and Lassiter was in there darting in there to stop things for no gain. He did have a play where he committed pass interference and the guy caught the ball. And then later on in practice, he just got big bodied by one of these big guys on the Panthers. Let me go pull the guy's name up here so I get it right. Yeah, Bryson Tremaine, who's 6'4", 200 pounds. He just went up there and was a big body and had a big catch against Kamari Lassiter that set up a touchdown throw for Bryce Young a moment later to Jatavian Sanders when Henry To'oTo'o was in coverage. But I thought pretty nice day from Lassiter. Again, there were some hiccups, the Tremaine one and then the pass interference play, but Lassiter was around and he locked up Leggett at one point. And sometimes Bryce Young just didn't have anywhere to go on the side, so he decided to dump it short. There were dump offs to running backs, sideways passes, quick sideways passes to tight ends and tight ends over the middle, and large part because the Texans' coverage was so darn good. Kalen Bullock had a great coverage rep against Xavier Leggett in the back of the end zone. Leggett tried to bobble the ball as he was going out of bounds, or he was bobbling the ball as he was going out of bounds, and I was discussing with Sam Warren, who works at the Chronicle. He's like, well, do you consider that a Kalen Bullock win in that rep? And I was like, yeah, I do, because Leggett was bobbling the ball, but if he'd stopped to catch the ball, Bullock would have just, bowled him over and just really crushed him. So I went with Bullock on a win there in the back of the end zone. He also had a nice tight coverage later on over the middle to force an incomplete. So Bullock was really good. The player that had the rough day in coverage, rookie Jalen Smith. He got mossed by Xavier Leggett at one point where the second-year wide receiver just went up and kind of ripped it away from Jalen Smith. And then on a third and very long, and when I say very long, I mean very long, because, Will Anderson had done what he does, or maybe it was Daniil Hunter. That's a tease for the next few moments here. But it was very long, third and very long. Jalen Smith committed pass interference. He just never got his head around. He put his hands on the wide receiver. I think it was Xavier Leggett, and he just never got his head around. It was a really bad play by Jalen Smith, but obviously some learning opportunities there from Smith coming out of this one. But overall, I felt like the coverage by the Texans was pretty good, and the success that the Panthers had was play actions that took a while to develop or quick game stuff that attacked, some of the space that the Texans presented with the defense. Pretty good coverage day from the Texans, made things tough on Bryce Young, and even held things up enough for one of those famous swarm sacks where the coverage is so good, everybody just gets there because the quarterback doesn't have anywhere to put the football. You should put on the perfect pair of jeans from my friends at The Perfect Jean. They're the best jeans I've ever worn. They are comfortable, they are breathable, they are stretchy, and they are 15% off with free shipping when you use my link in the description down below. They're the best jeans I have ever worn. There's tons of different styles, tons of different colors, mix and match. And with the free exchanges, you're going to have the opportunity to try out something that maybe you didn't usually want to try out. Maybe you want to finally put on the boot cut or the slim cut jeans, or maybe the jeans that you got are just a little too big or a little too small. It's free exchanges with my friends, The Perfect Jean. Use my link in the description down below. Get your discount, get your free shipping, your free exchanges, and get yourself the perfect pair of jeans from my friends at The Perfect Jean. Let's talk about the defensive line. Oh boy. I was excited to watch the Texans defensive line go against a different offensive line. They've had their fair share of success against the Houston Texans offensive line, but this is a very expensive offensive line in Carolina. They've got a $20 million guard. They got a $13 million guard. They got a $13 million tackle. Their other tackle is a top 6 pick. So it's an expensive offensive line that's out there protecting Bryce Young. But as we know, expensive doesn't always mean good. Just ask the 2024 Texans. But Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter, Tim Settle, Mario Edwards Jr., Darrell Taylor. Man, it was a fun day. Good pressure, constant pressure from Will Anderson, and he had a really good sack to kind of make up for a play the Panthers made. Anderson got them on that next play with a sack. That was a good job by him. Daniil Hunter was not fooled at all by a play action pass that Bryce Young went to execute, and he would have eaten Bryce Young alive for lunch in a live rep. Young hit the play action, he rolled it as he turned around. And I was pretty far away, but I could see how big Bryce Young's eyes got as Danielle Hunter was there, like the bad guy in a horror movie, surprising Bryce Young. And he was right there. That play was dead in the water and set up that third and very long for the Panthers. There was one play where Tim Settle just bowled through the middle of that offensive line. It was right there on Bryce Young. They let the play keep going, and it was a false start from the offensive line of the Carolina Panthers. And Young completed a little small pass, but they shouldn't have let the play keep going because Tim Settle sacked Bryce Young. Let me tell you about Darrell Taylor. I say his name wrong too much, but I got to learn his name because he's going to be on the team, and he's going to be a guy that bears down on quarterbacks. He was shot out of a cannon, his first rep of the day. In the first team portion, Darrell Taylor was shot out of a cannon. It looked like he teleported to the quarterback. He was right there, giving the quarterback the little tap to let you know, I sacked you. You did not get this play off. And really impressed with what Taylor's done in just flat pass rushes, as well as making his way with some moves against offensive linemen. Darrell Taylor's going to be a key backup for the Houston Texans when it comes to the defensive line, and Darrell Taylor's going to have himself some sacks this year because he is just spring-loaded, man. He gets out of his stance in a hurry. It's fun to watch. Dylan Horton had a good pressure, and I would say split a sack with Danielle Hunter at one point. No, excuse me. Split a sack with Mario Edwards at one point. Excuse me. Dylan Horton had a really nice pass rush and split a sack with Mario Edwards at one point. The Panthers didn't get a lot on straight run plays from the defensive line. Aziz Al-Shire, he sniffed out a toss and really eliminated that at one point. A couple of misdirection plays. They got like a little bit. There was a play here or there where they'd strike oil and get a few yards, but I thought the defensive line and really the front seven as well did a good job slowing down the rushing attack, and pretty good day for the Texans defense. And look, you're going to give up points in the National Football League. You just got to be able to limit your mistakes, and sometimes the other team's just going to beat you. That happened a few times in practice. Bryce Young is fearless with the football. He likes to put it over the middle. He likes to challenge guys, and, well, sometimes it puts it in a little precarious position, and sometimes he is able to make some of those risky throws over the middle. So it's a good job ultimately by Bryce Young a couple of different times. I left out MJ Stewart a minute ago. MJ Stewart locked down Jatavian Sanders in the red zone. Really impressive job by MJ Stewart. Good to see him. He's obviously the replacement for CJ Gardner-Johnson and that safety spot. Now let's finish up with the offensive line. The big fellas, the protectors. Ariante Ursery at left tackle, Laken Tomlinson at left guard, Jake Andrews at center, Ed Ingram at right guard, and Titus Howard at right tackle when I observed them in the team portion that I observed. And they had a pretty good job protecting and kept CJ Stroud upright. There was one coverage sack where, depending on how generous you want to get, could have been a CJ Stroud scramble for nothing. But they didn't move the pile much over the course of this practice, as we talked about earlier in the video. But I thought the protection was pretty decent at times. I know it dipped a little bit in the middle of practice and in the red zone. It got a little rough. I was talking to my buddy Texans Cap, who said it was not too good there. A lot of pressure, a lot of leakiness there for the offensive line. But they got it together, protected well towards the back end of practice, allowed Stroud to finish his day with a touchdown to Christian Kirk. Davis Mills had a touchdown to Braxton Berrios late in practice as well. And the drive that I watched, they did open up that big hole for Jawar Jordan, as well as keeping things nice and clean for CJ Stroud on third down, third and medium, maybe almost long, and Stroud was able to find Dalton Schultz, and Schultz was able to rumble down the field. They did miss a cornerback blitz at one point where that player came in and stopped the play because the offensive line or the offense didn't pick it up. But overall, pretty darn good day from the offensive line. Not great. Still room for improvement. They're probably still trying to exactly figure out who exactly they're going to have on the field. Cam Robinson did not practice in this one. Neither did Damian Pierce or Christian Harris, in case you're wondering about them. But overall, the offensive line, CJ Stroud was fine with it.
I thought they did really good. I thought Nick did a good job of moving the pocket and switching up quick game to intermediate to deep to good play action. We ran the ball well, so it's not just about just dropping back 4 or 5 straight times. You got to help those guys out, and every D line is really good, and our O line is really good. They can hold up, and we just got to help them out some. And I think we did that good, but I thought they did great today.
That's the big takeaways from the joint practice with the Panthers. Of course, the preseason game Saturday at noon. You don't want to miss out on that. The coverage right here on the channel after the game. Of course, on Houston football as well. SNL with myself and Landry Locker from the locker room each and every weekday live at 4 p.m. Can't miss out on that. I appreciate you watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I can't wait till we talk Texans again soon. Go buy yourself some jeans.